Greg in just a moment. Grace Under Pressure is that show that deals with too often called the soft stuff, the carrying the commitment that we do for others. And when you do it as a leader, as you will discover that Greg is, you do it to bring people together for common cause. Welcome, Greg Voisen. It's a pleasure to have you on the show today.
So. John, it's a pleasure being on your show. Thanks for inviting me, and I look forward to this lively discussion we're going to have today.
Great. I want to tell everybody about you. You're a thought leader in personal growth and human development. You have a new book out called Hacking the A Gap, which we'll talk about. And the most extraordinary thing about you, first of all, you're a serial entrepreneur. I don't know, you've been doing this since teen years, I think. So you know a lot about business and business people and how to motivate and mobilize for positive actions. So, and germane to me, you do a wonderful show, a podcast. You've been doing it well before the curve.
And, I've been doing it for 15 years.
Yeah, 900 guests on there, and one of which was me. So it's an honor to have you on my show, Greg. Welcome to Grace Under Pressure.
It's a pleasure, and thanks for mentioning the show. I just got off of a podcast before I started this, so I know how it goes. Just wonderful. Thanks for the introduction.
Great. So we touched on this. Greg, what does it mean to be a serial entrepreneur, and what are the lessons you share with emerging entrepreneurs?
Well, I mean, look, the book is called Hacking a Gap, A Journey from Intuition to Innovation and Beyond. And the book, it's not new per se, but it's been out a while. The most important thing, I think, when you look at most entrepreneurs is their ability to tap into intuition and utilize that intuition to make decisions and to trust it. One of the things, John, as you're very well aware, is, a lot of people have a challenge just even finding their intuition, let alone accessing the intuition. And then people will ask me, well, so what is intuition? And it is, in my humble opinion, that consciousness that evolves above the five senses that actually speaks to you. So I call it the soul. It's really getting in touch with the soul versus your ego, which kind of drives you most of the day. It is there to protect you. I get it. But at the same time, it gets in the way of creativity, innovation, doing things that you might otherwise do. But the ego does a great job of protecting you. It's constantly protecting you.
I think you define ego as rationality. Am I correct?
Well, I don't know if it would be rationality in that sense, but it is this. Everybody has one. The question is to what level it's utilized for good. What I find is that it frequently gets people in problems, okay? Because there is no way to really, like, let me put it this way. There is a way to moderate it, but there's no way to shut it down completely.
Yeah. Oh, you're talking about ego, correct?
Yeah.
So, right. Oh, I mean, I've often argued that ego is absolutely essential to leadership, but it's when there's too much ego, it becomes hubris or arrogance.
yeah, definitely. Overconfidence, arrogance, whatever you want to call it.
Right. I like your description of intuition as maybe a sixth sense. Is that what it might be, or is it? How would you define it? Right.
It is this sixth sense. In other words, in your show, you don't mind people using the word God, so. Ego to me, I mean, I know your listeners.
I mind people using the word God. I'm going to just shut down the show.
Right. But it's really edging God out. EGO. Yeah. Right. If you've never heard that before, which you probably have, that's edging God out. So the opposite of that is, in my sense, soul ego connection. I mean, I'm saying soul intuition connection. Intuition leads to you accessing the soul. It leads you to listening to the small voice within, that voice that can guide you. So if you look at Steve Jobs or Warren Buffett or Bill Gates or any of them, you can go to the internet today, type in, you know, intuition, Bill Gates, and there'll be a quote. Or you type in Steve Jobs, intuition. And most of them will tell you, John, that they utilize their intuition to make some of the most important business decisions in their life.
Mm-hmm.
And it was that intuition that led them to either the next great thing, or it led them to making a decision which helped lots of people, or it prevented something from happening, right? I mean, look, how many people have you talked to that their intuition told them, you know, maybe I shouldn't take that trip on that plane, right? Or the plane went down,
Yeah.
you know, or maybe I should do this. And there come in the sense of signs and symbols. You know, if people are really aware, they'll see the bird on the telephone pole. They'll look at the stop sign in a different way, because they've allowed themselves to get into this space of what is the meaning of those things that I'm actually seeing every day that are telling me a message, giving me a message.
Right. Well, okay, let's dig onto that. So dig into this a bit. So as you say, you know, see the bird on the wire or look at the stop sign. Is that another way of being mindful? Would you put it that way, Greg, or do you define it differently? So
I think if you're aware, it's a sign or a symbol, and you can look at that and be discerning. What is the meaning of that? And one of the challenges that I think people face is discernment. Is that there for me to pay attention to? And what does it mean today versus on another day? Maybe it has no meaning whatsoever.
yeah.
But today, because I feel it with inside of me, it's in my essence, it's something that's giving me a message. Maybe I need to slow down. The stop sign means maybe I should slow down a bit. Maybe I should pay attention more to the people around me or the world around me or whatever it might be. And honestly, when you ask a lot of people who you use the word mindful, practice mindfulness and meditation, contemplation, prayer, whatever you want to call it, because every different spiritual practice has its own way of making a connection.
Mm-hmm.
You can actually be spoken to. The question is, are you tuning into the signal where you're being spoken to, and then are you listening to it and then discerning what it's saying?
Right. So, taking it further, I think you have in the book, or you talk about the battle between soul and ego. Is there a conflict, and if so, describe that for us. So,
well, every entrepreneur is faced with utilizing the ego to make big decisions, and the soul to help them make the decision. So, in other words, there's this dichotomy. The ego is there, John, and it's important, but the soul should have more weight in the end in making a decision. So you say, well, critical thinking skills, for instance. Well, how does that come into play for me making a critical decision? Well, not everything is about collecting data. It is. I collected enough data to make a decision. But the reality in the end, John, how many times have you made a decision when it was a gut decision?
well,
It was a gut decision.
Right. And that's what I want to, that was my next question. So is there a difference? We often hear the term trust your gut, and there are pros and cons on either side. Could I say trust your intuition, or is there a deeper meaning in intuition, Greg? So,
no, good question. Obviously, you want to trust your intuition, but you have to be discerning. So again, I use the word discernment pretty liberally here, but as a mechanism to say, what am I being told? Do I trust it? And then, are you going to pray about it? Are you going to meditate on it? Are you going to use some level of awareness? So the heightened awareness brings you to an understanding that it's a good decision. And then I say, never turn back and doubt the decision that was made. So if you had all this great data, and let's say your CFO came in and said, hey, the company's losing money, and and here's what's happening, and we've got to do this, this, and this, and this, and you virtually utilize your intuition, you pray about it, you do whatever it is that you do, and you make this decision to cut something, right?
Mhm.
Sometimes very difficult to do, but you
Very
maybe have to
difficult.
cut. Yeah, sometimes you got to cut some employees, somebody got to do this, whatever it is. The point to that is this: are you doing that at all, or are you allowing your ego to constantly be in control of every one of those decisions? And I bet you would make different decisions if you allowed the soul and the intuition to be the guide.
Right. Well, I think so. I think what we're talking about, or what I would advocate or see, is moderation and or a mixture of both. And is that your agreement, or I mean, what's your perspective on that, Greg? You're the expert in this topic. So,
well, the answer to your question would be moderation. Yeah, maybe. The other answer to your question might be, how much faith do you have in the decisions you're making? How much trust do you put that it wasn't just me as the resource? What was the resource beyond me, beyond my conscious, beyond who I am, that helped me make that decision? And you could say, well, if there's people out there that have no spiritual belief whatsoever and they're atheists, they probably think that I'm a total crazy nut for thinking the way I think.
Yeah, plenty of people think that of me, Greg. So you're in good company, at least with me. So
yeah. So the thing you've got to say is, okay, if I'm a logical, sequential thinker, and my book went into depth in this. I did lots of research with computer programmers, people that said, I said, well, what is intuition to you when you get an idea and you want to follow it down a path? And the honest to goodness answer was, in the end, after I asked enough questions, they would say, well, I kind of went with a gut feeling. I went with something. Yet they would adamantly deny that there was something called intuition. And I would say, well, you're getting a feeling, right? Where's the feeling coming from? Where does that come from? Well, that's something that they would say, I had the synapses in my brain would fire, and it would link one idea to another idea to another idea to another idea, and all the synapses were firing, John. And then they'd say, well, in the end, there was a logical deduction. Then I went there and I said, when you got to that logical deduction and you weren't real certain about it, then where did you go? And they said, well, I had a gut feeling. Okay, so you went through all this analysis, you finally came out and you got to this logical deduction and you didn't still know what to do. And you said, well, I had to make a decision. Do I go right? Do I go left?
Sure. Well, part of that also comes because I know science does not preclude intuition, and medicine does not preclude faith. And so there are lots of different things. But one also and from your perspective too, if you look at entrepreneurship, which is something you've practiced your entire career, you gain wisdom from experience. So does experience broaden our intuition, or am I speaking of something differently? Great.
Oh, no, you're absolutely right on. If you don't allow yourself to have the experiences in life that are needed to add to the let's say the library that you draw from, right? We're going to call it the brain. And then in the end, hey, look, when you get to be our age, sometimes your library it can't remember a name. It can't remember a fact. It can't remember something. But then you say, hey, I can rely on technology to find it for me. And you go to Google and you Google it, and there it is, right? You get the name. So what I'm saying is we are more adapted to be more creative and innovative and utilize these tools for that creativity and innovation than we would be to maybe use them for a logical deduction. Where the soul comes in, where intuition comes in, where this happens is at the highest level, innovation and creativity. Companies today are looking for people that have this as part of their DNA because they're looking for more creativity to solve problems or to come up with a solution or to be more empathetic, to be more compassionate, to be more understanding. And I find that people that carry this perspective about life around soul, ego, intuition, creativity, innovation have a tendency to be open-minded to finding solutions that aren't always within their purview. Sometimes they
Absolutely.
come from the outside,
Yeah.
right?
Well, that's getting outside the logic paradigm. And I'm
Right.
somebody who believes fully in logic, but not everything is logical, especially life. So
Right.
I love your connection to creativity and behavior. You linked it to, you mentioned one of my favorite topics, and that was compassion. What is the link between creativity and compassion? So.
Well, scientists have done, and I've done lots of interviews with people who've written books that have studied compassion and the ability. So I would say that compassion opens the pathways to a person or individual, or actually probably more than that, but I'll say that, who can actually empathize in a situation and have greater levels of emotional intelligence, if that's what you want to use that term by Daniel Goldman. And I think it's a great one because the world relates to emotional intelligence. And so creativity, innovation, they all come from this ability to let go of who we are and become one with a greater consciousness that allows us to tap into a source that really you'll talk to a lot of inventors and they'll go, well, I don't know, it wasn't me. I woke up in the middle of the night and I was just struck by this great idea, and they wrote it down on a pad. And it's like, so wait a second. What you tell me is you were in a deep sleep. You woke up in the middle of the night and you wrote an idea down and you didn't know exactly where it came from. And then they'd say, well, I guess it came from all the things I tried and failed. And I go, yeah, that's a good one. But ultimately, something triggered that momentary decision to say, well, here's my great idea. I'm going to go bottle kombucha or whatever the heck it is, whatever it might be. Right.
Right. Well, yeah, and I think that's it. It gets to the concept of rumination, not rumination that leads us down a dark hole where we ruminate about, what could happen, and I'm a failure, and all those things, and we just compounded by excessive amounts of self-doubt. But letting an idea soak in us, and that's why people will say, many times in the middle of the night, or I had this idea when I was in the shower. It just my feeling is they have marinated in this idea, consciously or not, and then it comes to them. But you're taking it to you're saying intuition plays a role in that, correct? So,
again, in my humble opinion, having read lots of books on intuition, having read lots of books on compassion, I used to run around when I was younger as a salesperson, driving my car, and people say, well, who did you listen to? And I'm going back to the days of cassettes, and in those days,
I'm way too young for that, Greg. I'm not even sure what you're talking about.
and I would say Norman Vincent Peale. And they say, well, why did you listen to Norman Vincent Peale? And I'd say, because he inspired me. Inspire, right? Not motivate. There's a big difference between motivation and inspiration. Mm-hmm. He inspired me to think differently about life, about who I was as a person. And I can tell you, I probably learned as much from Norman Vincent Peale than I have anybody in the days that I rode around with the cassette player in the track, right?
I want to pick up on something, because you said, what is the distinction you draw? And I think it's a good one, because inspiration is a topic about which I've written, and as is motivation. What is the distinction between the two, Greg? So,
Well, I mean, look, you're a godly man. You're a spiritual man. To me, inspiration is the God within. It's basically you are expressing through your inspiration something that needs to come through. Motivation to me can be an external force, which actually people are coerced under. You're not on inspiration being coerced by anybody. You genuinely have it at the DNA level.
Yeah,
You're getting it from someplace else. Motivation, on the other hand, can say, hey, I'm motivated to make a bigger commission and sell more because they're going to give me more money, right? The
right.
motivation is maybe this external carrot. I'm going to get a vacation. I'm going to win a trip. I'm going
Sure.
to do whatever. And most companies will use motivation techniques like Pavlov's dog to get you to do something, right? That you maybe not do, but that they want you to do because it's going to earn the company more money or
Sure.
whatever it is.
Right. Well, it's interesting. I like your inspiration because actually the word inspiration comes from the Latin
Right.
inspire, and that is refers to the spirit within, which is what you just grounded it in. So, anyway, well, great. So, getting back to your book, hacking the gap. What is the gap? Is it the between the logic and inspiration and intuition, or what's the gap for you, Greg? So.
Well, John, it's the shortest distance between 2 points with the least amount of resistance and the highest personal growth that occurs in between. So I'll repeat it. The shortest distance between 2 points with the least amount of resistance and highest personal growth that it could occur to somebody. So what I say is this. If you break that down, there's three elements. The shortest distance. How do you make it from A to Z without all the failures in between? You surround yourself with people that have done it before. You surround yourself with thought leaders that you trust in. You trust in other people besides yourself. So that shortens the learning curve. Okay. And if you don't know how to do it, then you hire someone else that knows how to do it and you trust them to do it. That's part A of it. Between shortest distance between 2 points in the least amount of time is hacking the gap. Okay. The second part of it is that you grow personally and professionally, and you utilize that growth to not only be a better leader, a better husband, a better father, a better whatever it is in your life, but you're utilizing that growth by learning there. Thus, then, most people who do that will find that their quote profits, and we're going to talk about profits, the triple win, bottom line, people, planet, profit, that the profits that come out of this are much greater. All the profits, your ability to contribute back. I was just on with a gentleman at 9:30 this morning from Poland, and I'm sending money from my nonprofit to Poland, where they're cleaning apartments and giving people money to live and whatever. And the reality is that that's how you can contribute back, right? That's the compassion that shows through as a result in whatever way you can do it to help other people, however you can help them.
Great. No, it's a beautiful story. And so you touched on this. Oh, what I wanted to pick up on something because I think it's very important as it relates to intuition. Um, as we were discussing it before, it's more if it's an internal thing, me. But you broaden the concept as you explain in your book, "Hacking the Gap," about it's other people bringing on other people who know more than you, who are more experienced. So that's part of your intuitive process. I have a good feeling about X, or I have this person has experience, which is rational, and then I connect with them. Is that playing into it, Greg? So.
Oh, of course. I mean, look, this is a world of all my relations. We talk about, I do meditation retreats in the Orcas Islands, and the teachers are Dr. Joel and Michelle Leve. And one of the best stories I can tell is, when the Native Americans used to do dances to the north, the south, the east, the west, right? And when we would do these dances in this big field, and we would hold hands with one another, kumbaya, right? You could feel the energy that went from hand to hand to hand, people healing. And I think more than anything in this world is really, it's this emotional healing. And so what occurs when the more of that kind of thing you do, the more you improve your personal ability to make decisions about people. Call it emotional intelligence, call it intuition, call it empathy, call it compassion, call it love, call it whatever you want. But it's a godlike quality that sees in somebody else exactly what you see in yourself, you know? So I think it's in Buddhist traditions and in Eastern traditions. um they say, when I look in your eyes, what I see in you, I see in me, right? I'm paraphrasing, but the
Yeah.
reality is as compassionate individuals, we need to see the people in Ukraine right now as just like us. That could be us. So why not reach out and help?
Right. So you touched on this topic before we close. That's referred to often as the triple bottom line. Did you want to people, profit, and planet? Did you want to expound on that for a moment, Greg? So
Yeah, and I want to make sure I'm getting it right. It's people, planet, um, and I don't think the other one is profits, but profits is in there. But let's look at it this way. I just got a book, Let My People Surf, by Yvon Chouinard. Yvon Chouinard is the founder of Patagonia. He said, he hated business because hated was pilfering the earth and the planet. And everybody knows, let's use this as an example to triple bottom line.
yeah,
Whether it's Whole Foods or it's Yvon Chouinard, those gentlemen have realized there's something greater than their company just making money. The people have to enjoy working there. That's why he calls it Let My People Surf, because they're more creative when they surf. They come up with better ideas. He also knows, and he did this not that long, John, ago. You'd go to the website and you'd say, "Oh, I want a new jacket." And there'd be a sign there, "Don't buy this jacket." And you're like, Patagonia sells jackets. And
yeah,
but the reality is he didn't want you to buy it if you already had a jacket, because he says, I have to produce waste products from designing a jacket. You need to think about that. Where is that waste product going to go? And then what's going to happen to your old jacket? You're wearing a jacket right now. Where does that go? It goes to Goodwill, maybe Goodwill recycles it. We don't really know. But the point was this: planet is the most important thing to Yvon Chouinard at Patagonia. And it's
yeah.
very clear and evident. And the people that he serves and his avatars that would listen to him are mountain climbers and fishermen and people that are literally into the wild, and surfers and all kinds of people. And so with that being said, if the human capital of your business is the most important thing, why don't you let your people surf?
Yeah. Okay. Okay, Greg, we could keep on going here, but I have to wrap this up. And
Okay.
I ask everyone a question about grace. Do you have a story that you would like to share with us? So
I do. And I will. I know you're a limited amount of time. I think grace can best be explained. And I had my eldest son got chronic myelogenous leukemia. And when that happens, one day he was sitting on a stair step and he was at our other house and he said, Dad, I just lost a friend to CML. And he was down in Australia because there was a community built on the web and they would talk to one another. And I said, well, Sean, I'm very sorry for your loss and the loss of him and to his family. But you are going to make it through it. You are going to be fine. And I think with the sense of understanding your finitude, and the fact that we're all here for a short time, the grace comes into an acceptance of what is. Okay. and it's so hard because we want to resist, John. We as human beings, we have this resistance thing, and so we will resist. But as the Dalai Lama says, and these will be my last words, when you're done, your day is done here, and you meet your maker, you'll be known by the people you loved, the people that loved you, and how much you let go.
What a powerful story. What a powerful story of grace. And I think our conversation has gone in and out of grace. We started with the topic of soul and intuition and balanced with a degree of rationality, and then just a wonderful story about your family. So I am grateful for you, Greg, for sharing this. So how can people find you? And we will put these links in the notes. So
okay. Two or three places. One, my consulting company, Illuminate, is ELUMINATE.net. That's where I actually earn a living by bringing light inside corporations and transforming them. The second one is hackingthegap.com. That's a book website, but also a resource site for people. They can download a free chapter of the bag. So it's hackingthegap.com. And then they can always find me at insidepersonalgrowth.com. There you can find 920 interviews with authors from all over the world, from everything from personal growth, wellness, business, spirituality. That's what we cover. And then the last place is just gregvoisen.com. So I have 4 websites. So they can find me almost anywhere, John. I'm out there in a lot of different places. So thanks a lot for being on.
Always Google, just Google your name too.
All you got to do is Google Greg Voisen. Yes, you'll get me. Yeah.
Greg, it has been an honor to speak to you because you have been doing this for so long and you've helped a lot of people. And it's so good that you are a savvy business person as well as a deep thinker and a spiritual person. So my honor. So with that, we'll close out. So.
All right, John, you have a great day.